Today in Unsolved, Florida, we have our first unsolved case that involves an entire family. Who slaughtered 3 generations in Miramar, Florida almost 30 years ago, and why hasn't it gotten more attention? Trigger warning that this case is pretty gruesome and intense, and I will be showing crime scene photos. This 6-week-old baby girl was found laying in her bassinet. Her 2-year-old sister was found curled into a ball behind the nearby couch. Their grandmother just a few feet away on the kitchen floor, and their mother laying in a pool of blood on the dining room floor. Today we're going to be talking about one of South Florida's most shocking mass murders, a crime scene made more terrifying by a cryptic message the killer wrote on a wall near the victims. A grandmother, a daughter, and 2 baby girls were killed inside their own home. It's been almost 3 decades and there has been no justice. Let's get into the specifics of this case. Teresa was 68 years old and was visiting from Haiti. Marie was a 29-year-old Haitian immigrant, a wife and a mother to her 2 girls, Samantha, who was only 2, and Sabrina, 6 weeks old. On the morning of April 30th, 1997, Marie's husband, George Altidor, left for work around 7 a.m. But when he tried checking in with them in the early afternoon, no one answered the phone. Concerned, George asked his brother-in-law, who lived about a mile away, to check in on the family. What he found inside the home on South Crescent Drive was a scene so horrific that the police had to wear biohazard suits to investigate. Around 5 p.m., George's brother-in-law and his 12-year-old son found the front door of the Altidor home unlocked. Teresa and Marie were stabbed, shot, and beaten. The babies, Samantha and Sabrina, were beaten to death with a hammer-like tool, and a chilling message was scrawled on the wall. "I want my $100,000 drug money. They stole my drugs." Police have stated there was no forced entry, nothing was reported stolen. This wasn't a robbery, this was a message. This was an execution. Investigators counted 70 wounds across the 4 bodies. From the start, investigators considered George, the husband, father, and son-in-law of the victims, to be a person of interest, and they still consider him to be a suspect to this day. After the news of the murders became public, George's first wife told detectives that George was jealous, controlling, and manipulative to her. He would secretly record phone calls and repeatedly threatened her with a gun he kept under his pillow. Back to this strange message written on their hallway wall. A warrant required George to provide a sample of his handwriting for comparison to the writing on the wall, but the analysts could not determine a match. Investigators focused on George, piling a lot of circumstantial evidence, but unfortunately lacked any physical evidence. The only evidence that caused doubt was a phone call from the residence at 7:09 a.m. Phone records showed that a call had been placed to a distant relative in Maryland about Sabrina being born. However, the relative that took that call, Helene, was not certain that the caller was in fact Marie. The call was critical to the timeline because George said he was already on his 30-minute commute to work, where he did arrive at 7:30 a.m. Helene followed up her statement by saying that it was odd for Marie or anyone to call at such an early hour or to call at all. Technology in 1997 could not be used to prove if Marie, George, or anyone else in that house made the phone call. George later married the woman that he was reportedly cheating with and moved to Oklahoma. His new wife, Florence, was someone he had visited the night before his family was murdered. He told investigators he had gone there to work on her air conditioner the evening before. George and Florence are reportedly still together in Oklahoma, and he has not cooperated with the investigation since October of 1997. The police have continued over the years to try and solve this generational murder case, but have lacked enough evidence to move forward with charges. Really quickly, I just want to share my thoughts. It's probably the same as all of you are thinking right now, but we are left to wonder, did he have help? According to all the reports that I have found, his wife, now Florence, was never questioned. If she wasn't questioned, that means she doesn't have an alibi. Could she have made that phone call to their distant relative, therefore giving George an alibi? Perhaps. I think it is really obvious that George here committed these brutal crimes, and you hate to even think that a father, a husband, could do this to his own family. But we've seen it time and time again. I think these kind of cases are almost worse than wondering who did it, because you know the person. You know them, you loved them, they were also part of your family, and yet they killed their family. It's also horrible that no arrests have ever been made. Cold Justice featured this family in 2022, and if Kelly can't solve a case, I don't think it's going to be possible unless Florence or George confess. And the chances of that happening are very slim. They've gotten away with it for so long, they're probably going to be very careful. I just can't imagine a world where you would want to kill your 6-week-old child and your 2-year-old little princess. To me, that's just completely out of the realm of possibility. If you know anything about the family murders, please call Crime Stoppers at 954-493-TIPS. That's it today for me, guys. I'll see you next time.